Hello, hello, hello. We are live right now, except there's probably not going to be a whole lot of people tuning in just yet, just because I haven't posted to Patreon yet. But I am live streaming right now. Live stream, Patreon, come hang now. Live and in person. Fun. All right. Well, very exciting. I know right now. Publish now, and patrons only. Let's do this. Cool. So far exactly nobody's in here. That's great. So far exactly. Well, I guess I'll just sort of like hang out and talk to myself. I had a good day today. Working on a new video, which is called "Why the American System is Better." Nobody's here yet. This is so sad. This is so sad. Oh well. I'm just gonna do nothing until somebody comes and hangs out. So very exciting. All right, well, I'm just gonna practice scales until people come here. Hey, somebody's watching. So exciting. 2 people are watching. Oh my gosh. I'm popular. First. Yes, John, you are the first. This is a Patreon patron only, so it's gonna be nice and intimate today. It's basically just a little bit more of a hang. I've just been practicing bass for the first time in a long time, and it feels good. So, practicing scales right now, just getting all limber. Any question that you want to ask, or basically I'm yours. I'm yours right now. And I'm yours. 4 people are watching. Any questions, I am glad to answer. Otherwise, I'm just gonna noodle on bass. Try that again. Yeah, so might as well talk about what I'm doing right now. I've been practicing some stuff for an upcoming Adam Neely jingle. You know, when I stopped doing Adam Neely's bass lessons, I basically just yeah, I mean, like, I was doing bass lessons for a long time and I had an awesome like jingle and stuff, but since I stopped doing bass related content, I need to have like a new jingle. And so I've been working on a new jingle and I'm excited. So the bass line sounds like that. Except it's all gonna be a lot faster. Way faster than I can play it right now. If. Oh, question. Trey, any tips for someone who came to bass after 8 years of alto sax? Oh, questions already. been playing bass since May, trying to suck as little as possible. Yeah, learn as many songs as you can on bass. Good songs to learn involve anything performed by James Jamerson, Motown bass player. The more that you get into James Jamerson, the more you know about bass playing. Start with like a, I think the bass line that I start most of my students out on was In the Midnight Hour by Wilson Pickett. It's a very, very straightforward sort of bass line. Yeah, and if you I don't know, it's a good bass line to learn intermediate level if you already have a pretty decent grasp of theory and timing and stuff. It's maybe Respect, Aretha Franklin, great bass line. Anyway, are you not doing any bass-related content just to appear to a wider audience, or is that just where your interests lie at the moment? It's kind of both. I mean, I think of myself as more than a bass player. I know it's a little pretentious, but that's kind of what it is, honestly. Like, I have a wide range of like interests and stuff. So, and bass, if you just focus just on bass, like the market is already kind of flooded. Scott's Bass Lessons and like Talking Bass on, Talking Bass. I mean, there's all these guys that do that stuff, like exclusively bass related content in a way that they do it way better than I do. And I'm not as interested in doing that sort of thing. But, I have like a bass technique video that I've been working on for a while. So, I'll probably get back into that a little bit more. But it's just, I'm not really a bass player and bass player only. I got a lot of other interests, so I like to try and explore as many as I can. So, hey, Adam, I love what you do. Any suggestions for a musician who wants to break into YouTube, specifically by playing covers and originals, arranging them in interesting ways with different instrumentation? How do you get noticed? Do you just keep posting until someday you get lucky to featured or suggested by YouTube? It's a great question because it's kind of hard. It's very hard. I got extremely lucky. I mean, I like to think that I put out like really awesome content, and that's why I got picked up. And there's a degree of that. Make sure that what you do is like super, super awesome. Make sure that whatever you do, you would want to click on. Try and emulate the people that you want to. Yeah, try and find people that you want to emulate and figure out what they're doing right. I always say steal as much as you can. Like find out what they're doing and copy them. That really just copy the crap out of them. And within reason, like figure out what they're doing and try and emulate them. And people will say like, oh, you're just stealing what they do, but there's a reason why people are successful in any one field, and it has very little to do with blind luck. People are doing something right. Maybe it's not necessarily the music. The music might not be amazing, but they're doing something that you aren't doing, and that's why they're successful. That's usually what it is. Now, as far as getting into YouTube, I mean, it's a grind, man. It's pretty saturated, but at the same time, it's definitely doable because it's definitely growing. Yeah, do really awesome covers a lot, and it's going to be a slog. It's going to be an absolute slog. I would say like maybe 2 or 3 years before you start seeing any sort of return on your investment of time. But, it's a war of attrition. Anytime that you do something worth doing, it's a war of attrition. Just, keep slogging at it. But post regularly. I'm sure you've noticed that before. Post regularly and make sure whatever you do is good. So anyway, had originally found your channel before your bass lessons from an old hand posture video. Stoked that you're hammering that home lately. Really helped me out. Helped me in the heart. I'm glad, man. I'm glad. Or woman, Waza. Yeah, I'm really glad because that really helped me, honestly. And hand position stuff and technique position stuff are important for technique and for just making sure that you can keep playing music. So I'm really glad that you found that, and I'm going to keep hammering that on in that bass technique video. So anyway, I actually initially followed Adam for Sungazer videos and one about music in general. Heck, I don't even play bass. I feel like that's what most of the peoples are are all about right now. And, you know, that's totally fine. I started with the bass stuff, but I slid out of that. I slid out of that really quick. Like the first video that like quasi went viral of mine was like the how and why classical musicians feel music differently. It has nothing to do with bass playing. The other one was the music theory of vaporwave video. It had nothing to do with bass playing. Most of the videos past a certain point, I play bass in them and I use my bass to like demonstrate subjects, but you know, they're just equally applicable across all instruments. And you know, I think my goal is to try and do stuff that's not I mean, if it is bass related, it shouldn't be like somebody who plays an instrument that's not bass or doesn't even play an instrument can get something out of the video. Cool. Oh, hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, hi, Adam. I think I answered this a while back in a Q&A, but anyway, do you have any interests? Have you listened to noise music / non-idiomatic music? I don't really have much interest in that. I mean, for me personally, I get the most out of music that has a lot of thought put into design and control, and yeah, the more care put into it. That said, I mean, I do have a soft spot for incredibly aggressive, like, I don't know, noise. I guess just noise stuff. As long as somebody put a lot of thought into it. If it just slapped together and somebody just like has some feedback on a guitar amp and then calls that art, I'm going to judge it with the same degree of rigor that I would judge a Beethoven. Well, not Beethoven. I actually don't like Beethoven that much. I like him all right. But I would just same degree of rigor as any other kind of music. And it comes down to how much thought and care somebody put into creating an aesthetic. And if they're just letting the guitar feedback, that's not a lot of thought and care. So I'm going to treat it as such. It's like disposable. Anyway. Am I going to post this to Patreon later? Yep. It's going to be available. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be available in general once I just stop streaming, because it's an unlisted link and the link's been attached to Patreon. So the first like 5 minutes of it are just going to be me like doing nothing because nobody was here yet. So I'm just like noodling and stuff. It's not going to be that interesting, but anyway. Hi, Adam. Sorry, I'm just leisurely working my way through these questions because there's not that many and I can answer each question individually. It's great. Hi, Adam. What books and lessons would you recommend to start learning advanced harmony for composition? I already have a grasp on keys and modes and functional harmony. I want to use big chords, polychords, anything that I can add to my toolbox. Well, yeah, I mean, the big one that I always say is 20th Century Harmony, or 20th Century Harmony by Vincent Persichetti. That is, you know, for me, I learned so much from that book. In fact, let me go get it right now. Let me get my copy because there's something that I kind of want to show people. It's really funny. Dead air for like the next 5 seconds. I will be right back. You know where my copy of 20th Century Harmony is? Really exciting, guys. I know. This is great filmmaking that I'm doing right now. Crap. I don't know where it is right now. Oh. No. All right, so that was fun. I couldn't find it. Oh, it's right here. Sweet. All right. 20th Century Harmony, guys. 20th Century Harmony. Such a great book. But I have, oh God, you can't see anything. Maybe if I turn this light off. Yeah, it's better. I have annotations on every single book or every single page of this book. And I might like digitize some of this because I wrote in grad school, I wrote like a hilarious amount of things. Like, I don't know, just like, what are some good ones? I like do commentary on this. Actually, none of it's that great. Oh, one is just Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Oh, yeah. This one is just like on the 12-note chords. I just write like, bat, whap, bazing. It's not that funny. Why do I think that it's funny? It's really not. And then, I don't know, whatever. So I'm going to digitize at some point like all of my commentary on it, and I think it's really hilarious. I think it's funny. That's all that matters. The other book that I would recommend is Ludmila Ulela's Contemporary Harmony. This is a little bit more of a textbook type situation, and her stuff is a little bit more... Well, so the thing I like about this book is that it's much more like inspiring in the sense of like, these are some things that you can do. Try it. This is a little less inspiring, but it's more, what's the word? It's more textbookish. It's more like analytical. It's more, I don't know, complete with like all the weird chords. So I like the Ulela. If I was to ever teach a course in, modern harmony, I'd probably teach from the Ulela. But anyway, those are my two go-tos. Anyway, all right. So I am going to work my way up. Thanks for the suggestions. Sorry, you might just have to sort of hang out if you want to get your question answered, because I'm going to answer every question. Thanks for the suggestions. By the way, I was so excited when you mentioned Stimpy Lockjaw a while back, one of my favorite groups. Stimpy Lockjaw is awesome. Unfortunately, they're not really performing anymore. I don't really know any plans to release any more material. I know their keyboard player, Kevin Theodore, pretty decently, and he now works in like commercial music. He was the keyboard player for Mad Sata, which is another band that was like playing at the same time. And yeah, I think he's not really doing a whole lot of that stuff anymore, unfortunately. But fucking killer album. Great album. Love it. I posted a Patreon letter, yeah. Any plans for a Sungazer show anytime soon? I live in Long Island City. Would love to see y'all live. Well, the problem with that is that Sean Crowder, the drummer, is moving to Europe. So the plans for doing any sort of Sungazer show, probably not going to happen anytime soon. So unfortunately, I'm starting to work on some other original projects that I haven't I have not announced yet, but they will happen. Oh, by the way, did you know there was a recent study in the University of Ottawa where they found a narrow resonance in H2O molecules within a blood frequency of 432 hertz? I am fascinated, but I also am pretty sure that they're cherry-picked the data, because you can find resonances at all sorts of things. Was it at a multiple of 432 hertz? Was it at a, you can say that there's a bunch of different ways to say that something is 432 hertz, and that's what a lot of people like bend over backwards to do when they're trying to prove 432 hertz is like the grand universal resonance, whatever. So I'd like to see that. I'll look that up. I'm eventually gonna like try and organize another video about 432 hertz, because there's so much more that I need to debunk, and there's so many people that I would like to debate, maybe live on camera. That'd be fantastic. The cat should take over the stream. Well, let me just angle the camera a little bit so you can see the cat. There we go. No, that's not it. Well, not really. Oh well. How about that? Yeah, there we go. Move that guy over. Cool. There's the cat. He just sort of lives there. Cool. Thank you for your answer on the books. I'll never stop learning for you, man. You're the first creator backed on Patreon. Oh, thanks, man. And well deserved. No. Oh, Adam, I'm just trolling. I mean, I honestly can't tell. Like, that's the whole thing with the internet. Unless you're actually there in person, I'm going to assume that you're serious, and I will fight back. Unless you have the backslash S. That's the universal. I guess on Reddit, that's how they show sarcasm. I think it's getting memeified. I mean, yeah, 432 is pretty memeified by this point. And apparently I'm like at the center of the meme. Maybe not the center of the meme, but I'm involved in the meme, in meme lore surrounding 432. I'm not that mad about it, but it's odd that I'm like, that's the thing that a lot of people know me as. There've been a lot of people who are like 432 advocates who have like accused me of taking money from them, or like who is paying you off. Like I've literally had that on several things, and I honestly don't know if they're serious or not. And that's what's difficult to tell is like, are people trolling me or are they serious? But people get very angry and think that I am working for the government or something to like propagate 440. And, you know, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of frightening because I'm just a guy who did some cursory research and also a musician who knows what the hell he's talking about. So there we go. Big Hertz pays me. I would love it if Hertz Cars paid me to promote Hertz Cars, Hertz rental cars. There's a Hertz nearby. It's fairly cheap. That would be awesome. I wonder if I could do I wonder if the next video I like go to that Hertz and then just deliver my speech or deliver like the script in front of the Hertz cars and just like 432 Hertz is a complete fraud. Brought to you by Hertz Automobiles. Hertz Automotive. I have some classmates in music school here that stopped attending harmony class because the teacher recently ran on a rant about how A equals 432 is really dumb. Well, then they don't deserve to learn harmony. And, you know, they'll be self-selective. They won't learn how harmony works, and then, you know, then they'll suck as musicians. No musician I know of buys into any of that. I mean, I do know of some musicians. I'll say that. I do know of some musicians who bought into it, but, you know, I don't really play with them that often. Because they're tuning in 432 and I'm tuning in 440 like the rest of us. So there's that. I do know some people have experimented with it a little bit more, and I do like the idea of experimenting with a 432 because it's an 8-cent difference, or it's not 8-cent difference. It's a it's like a 37. I forget exactly what the difference is. It's noticeable. It's a pretty noticeable difference, but it happens to be the same difference between the just intonated harmonic seventh, which is the seventh harmonic, and the equal tempered minor seventh. It's like the same exact difference between 440 and 432, and also between a just intonated harmonic seventh, the seventh harmonic, and minor seventh. And so Jacob Collier does that, and he uses that as like this pivot chord. He uses like this pivot, I guess it's modulation, like frequency modulation, like it's not even frequency modulation. Yeah, I guess it's like a pitch. I don't know. It's crazy on Hideaway. Like everybody's like, oh my God, Hideaway. It's brilliant what it is in that regard, because the differences between 432 and 440 are pretty much exactly the differences between those two kinds of sevenths. So that's cool. I like that. That's cool. Experiment with that. That's fun. I like that sort of thing. That's cool. I can definitely get behind that. It's when it gets into the mystical quasi stuff, I'm just like, you don't know anything. Anyway. Big Hertz, yeah. Cool, guys. Well, any other questions? I'm just hanging out. My cat's name is Echo. Can I still be a good singer if I didn't go to Berkeley? My girlfriend asks if she can be a good singer if she didn't go to Berkeley. And the answer is she's probably a lot better of a singer because she didn't. It's a Patreon stream, so there's not like a million people, which is nice. It's very civilized. Yeah, okay, so this is Echo the cat. I typically refer to him as the cat. You know, it's technically my girlfriend's cat, but we got the cat from the shelter, and the cat, like, that was what it was on. The cat's like things. Echo the cat. I was like, oh my God, Echo, music related. So the cat just kept the name Echo. So that was Echo the cat. I am a fan of naming cats based upon like ancient Egyptian gods or like Norse gods. Like one of my parents' cats was named Odin. And I also had a cat named Ra, a cat named Cleo. I guess that's not a god, Cleopatra. Oh, I have a question. Yes, girlfriend? What's your deepest, darkest secret? What's my deepest, darkest secret? Um,
want a skeleton that's in your closet.
a skeleton that's in my closet.
I'm just kidding.
Um, at one of the Berkeley at one of the Berkeley like uh, orientation events, I sharded and I had to like run away.
That's not bad.
It's really not that bad, but it was hilarious at the time. I was mortified because I didn't know anybody. I was like, ah.
I was singing in a choir in the 5th grade in church, and I pissed my pants.
It's pretty mortifying.
I ran out.
Anyway, uh, so there's people with actual questions right now. Okay, okay, I have an actual question. Time to time, I write a crappy EDM, but I have difficulties making transition from one riff theme to another, but my brain just wants it to loop. Can you give advice? Yeah, that's the trick with the crappy EDM stuff, right? Like you kind of have to figure out ways of making it just loop, but then like slightly change it up, like really slightly. Like I was just thinking this. Okay, so there's this trend in classical art music called minimalism. It's like artists, composers like Steve Reich, Philip Glass, John Adams, Terry Riley. They basically create music that is incredibly repetitive, extremely repetitive. And it was a reaction against like the super complicated music that came right before it. And it's very diatonic, very tonal, but like it's kind of like you get into a trance because of how repetitive it is, but it slowly changes like over the course of like 15 minutes. Like maybe it's like an 8-note pattern, and after like 30 repetitions, it becomes like a 9-note pattern, and then it slowly becomes like a 10-note pattern. And it's a really like interesting thing. Definitely check out like Terry Riley's In C. That's a big one. Steve Reich, music for 18 musicians, clapping music, electric counterpoint. He did that with Pat Metheny. The main point with this is they figured out how to slowly change something that's super repetitive that you just sort of like get into the groove of. And they figured out how to do that and then make it like really interesting. And that's kind of like how a lot of electronic music is. The good kind is you kind of just get into this groove, you get into this repetitive 4-bar loop or whatever. And then every section, it's like a slight different change. Like there'll be like a build, a drop off on like the last 2 beats, and then the same groove will come back in, except now like a very slight variation. Like maybe it's a different hi-hat pattern. Like maybe the drums, like the first 8 bars in this like groove or just the kick, and then something happens at the end of those 8 bars, and then the hi-hat comes in. Like that's one thing. And you kind of have to embrace the repetition of it. And the artistry comes in the very subtle additions and density of sound information that comes from doing these loops and doing these things. So like background noises, sweeps, little, I don't know, I can't do that. Like that sound, like that's a big one. That was a big sound in 2014, is that sort of water drop sound. You heard that everywhere. That sort of died. Yeah, and it's just like learning how to build that. Also learning how to organize the different sections. One like common form in electronic music, like a lot of electronic music is, built on the build and then the drop. But when you talk about electronic like pop music, it's like a much longer form than your typical like dance pop or whatever. It seems like there's like kind of a verse, then there's, or like an intro, then a verse, and then like a pre-chorus, and then a chorus, and then a build into a drop. And the chorus is kind of like the build into the drop, and then it's like an instrumental section for like 8 to 16 bars. And then that whole thing repeats itself. And by then you've reached like the 4-minute mark, and then you're done. It's interesting. Just pay close attention to how other people do it. Like I say all the time, steal as much as you can. Bye. Girlfriend's going out, and I'm talking to a camera. So yeah, steal as much as you can. Bye. Okay, cool. Oh, you said bye. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to say exactly what to improve upon without checking out what you do. But, the more that you do it, the better that you are. That's one thing. You can't expect to be good at something in the beginning. You have to like work really hard, and then you'll be slightly better. And for composition, when you're recording, that means doing a lot of shitty things and then eventually throwing them out, and then you get better. So that's what it is. Cool. Okay, for the plucking hand on the bass guitar, my first teacher taught me to always rake when possible. My current teacher believes in strict alternation of fingers 1 and 2. What are your thoughts? Yes, I have argued with many a foe on the internet about this. Okay, so my advice is strict alternation. Not because it's a better technique, but because it's going to force you to think about what your right hand does more. So it's like thinking about strict alternation is more for the process of practicing rather than the actual technique. And what I mean by that is when you're playing your instrument, the majority of what you're thinking about is in what the left hand is doing. And your right hand is given almost no attention in your brain. The downside of that is that your right hand is the actual thing that plays the instrument. You're actually using the right hand to play the instrument. And it can feel like a little boring when you're focusing on the right hand because in fact, you can just set the right hand on autopilot, and then that means you're I can't even talk. Sorry. Yeah, when you set the right hand on autopilot, it doesn't really improve your right hand technique, and you will hit a wall at some point. Sorry, I'm stammering over myself right now. So, to my little light horn, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Cool. Can you hear that? Excuse me. Yes. So, right hand technique. Can you see? There we go. There we go. I prefer strict alternation for that. So that basically means you're always going to have to be thinking about what your right hand is doing. So if I'm playing like a D major scale, on the way down when you're raking, what's going to happen is like your finger is always going to be, when it plucks the note on top of it, it's going to, when you pluck a note, it's going to rest on the string above it, and it's going to want to pluck that string. But that's sort of like a limbic system going on. You're not consciously making the choice to pluck that string. It's just something that happens naturally. And because it happens naturally, you're not going to put a lot of thought into it. When you play strict alternation, you're really going to have to focus. And because you're focusing, you're going to have a much tighter approach to this hand, because you are the one that is training your hand to do exactly what you want. And for the longest time, I raked everything. I did a ton of raking, and I argued very, very vigorously on the internet, saying like, oh, economy of motion, like strict alternation doesn't make any sense. You should like, your finger's already there, you should pluck it there. But then I tried doing strict alternation, and I realized, oh, I can get a lot cleaner because I'm thinking a lot more about what my hand is doing, and I'm much more accountable. It's going to take a long time. And the way that I recommend practicing it is literally saying index middle for whenever you're playing whatever you're doing. Because if I'm playing index middle, 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 index, I'm really having to think about what I'm doing. I can't just, like, if I mess up, I have to go back and do it again. So that is my thought on raking versus strict alternation. Do strict alternation because it makes you think more, and that's a good thing. Yeah. Am I going to do streams like that again? Yeah, I'm going to probably be doing these streams a little bit more frequently. That's kind of a reward for Patreon patrons. The people that pay my bills, the people who make this possible. I want to be able to do as much as I can, as efficiently as I can. I don't want to like kill myself with logistics getting out rewards to people, but I do want to, be able to be available to people. So, to answer their questions. If you didn't go to school for music, what do you think you would have studied? Come on. What is this going on? Well, so I recently did a Ask Me Anything at Reddit base. Reddit base. This is stupid. Okay, yeah. If I didn't go to school for music, what would you have studied? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the best way of doing this. Okay. Yeah, I didn't ask me anything at the Reddit base thing, and the way I answered that question was, I would have studied philosophy, quote unquote, but I would have gone to school at a place called St. John's College, and there's actually two versions of St. John's College. It's a very small school. There's a St. John's in Annapolis, Maryland, state capital of Maryland, a small state capital, and also in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And the thing with St. John's, and it's a fascinating program, and like it's almost one of those great what ifs, but I am happy that I did music. There are no teachers. They call them mentors. There are no professors at St. John's. There's no curriculum. I mean, there's one curriculum. There's no teachers. There's no grades. There's like, I guess it's pass fail. And there's only one thing that you do. And the only curriculum is you read books. That's it. Everybody just goes to the school, and then you're assigned a reading list. And then like when you go to class, it's just discussing the books, and that's it. That's literally it. There's nothing else. So if you want to like learn mathematics, you read like mathematical tomes that Isaac Newton wrote, and like Principia Mathematica, and like, I don't know, like any of that other stuff. Or if you want to learn science, you actually read Origin of Species. You actually read all the important texts in those fields. And the kinds of people that go to St. John's College are the most incredibly intelligent people that I have ever met, and also very socially like adept too. They're not super nerdy, because part of the whole thing, I mean, they are super nerdy, but you have to be able to they do classes in rhetoric and debate and like public speaking. So you have to actually be able to communicate with other people, which is an extremely useful talent and extremely useful skill. I'm still working on it. I do have a YouTube channel, but I could always improve, and that's something I like to work on. And the reason why I didn't end up going there is because their music program was very, very small. I feel like they just there's a couple like Rameau's Treatise on Harmony, or I don't know exactly what the music curriculum was, but I was like, I really like playing bass a lot. I'm gonna go and do that. So I did that, but that was what I would have studied. Cool. Probably gonna hang out for another few minutes and call it a day. Sorry, guys. Keep the questions rolling, by the way. More questions, the better, so I have more stuff to talk about. Another plucking hand question. Some players... God, this microphone. I mean, it sounds great. I love it. It's fun, but it's being a pain in the ass right now. All right, another plucking hand question. Some players pluck using their fingertips, while others advocate using much of the pad of the finger, the meat, as possible for a big fat tone. Well, it depends on... Oh, plucking hand question. Yeah, it depends on... There's a bunch of different styles of pizzicato technique for electric. Let me just do this. Maybe this will help. I am more of the meat variety. I'd say I'm a meaty guy. The tip... Yeah, I'm not a fan of the tip. I've been trying to do a lot more playing with a heavier touch, which right now probably doesn't sound the greatest just because I'm not through an amplifier, and also these strings are a little dead. And also this action's not super great for playing with a heavy touch, but I do like the heavier touch because of how articulate it sounds in the mix. And when you have big, meaty, like getting as much of the meat of the finger as you possibly can on the string, you can really dig in a little bit more in a way that's healthy, because you don't want to dig in and tense up. You want to dig in and relax, like play and pluck with the weight of the arm into the string. Yeah, I'm more of that sort of fan, just as a general rule of thumb. The mic will get a close-up bass at the end, I swear. That sounds really awesome. There's a similar project in Portugal called Escola de Ponte, which also doesn't have professors, only mentors, and the older students help the younger. Yeah, that sounds great. That's exactly what St. John's College is. That's great. Yeah, I would love to go to something like that. Yeah, it was, another interesting thing. This is another interesting thing that I talk about sometimes. Actually, I haven't talked about it at all. I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the internet. I didn't get into Berklee the first time. I got a deferred enrollment, which is really strange. It was a very strange transitional period for Berklee because the audition period and also the audition process and then the enrollment process, like when you actually signed up to go to Berklee, were two separate things. So I auditioned for scholarship. You audition for scholarship, but then you apply, and your application has nothing to do with your audition. So I got scholarship on my audition, not a lot, but I got some scholarship. I was like very proud of myself. And then I found out that I didn't actually get into Berklee, which is really strange. So I got deferred enrollment, which meant that I had to wait until the spring, which was really, really strange. So for a semester, I went to the University of Maryland, which is a big state school, not the greatest music program. It's an okay music program, at least for what I wanted to do. And, I didn't even take any music classes when I was at University of Maryland for just a semester. I just took every philosophy class I could. I took like a logic class. I took like an ethics class. I also took a history of rock and roll class. That was fun. So that was interesting. But then I went to Berklee, and then the rest is history. You mean that Steve Harris kind of style of digging in where the strings rattle off the frets? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to show you exactly right now, but like if I'm doing like a lighter touch sort of thing. You can play faster, but it's not going to come out in the mix as much if I dig in a little bit and pluck closer towards the bridge. And that's something that I've been like noticing more. It sounds like shit right now because again, just direct in and dead strings. But once it's through an amp and through a compressor, it sounds amazing in the mix. So I've been like digging in a little bit more, and it sounds better. So yeah. Started formally taking music lessons like 5 weeks ago. Any wisdom to pass down to someone who's essentially just starting out? Things to look out for, things I should definitely do, etc. Well, practice often. Practice often, practice every day. That's the big thing. I know I did a video that was like me practicing for 5 hours straight. Don't do that. That was kind of a performance art piece in a way. You should practice every day regularly the same amount of time. So like if it's 10 minutes a day, it's great. Make sure it's 10 minutes every single day. If it's 20 minutes a day, make sure it's 20 minutes every single day. Because the most happens when you're not practicing, the most happens when you sleep. Because whenever you deal with issues of muscle memory and things which are not encoded in your prefrontal cortex, I'm talking as if I know what I'm talking about, but whenever you are working on something that isn't strictly in your conscious brain, which is like learning how to play an instrument, like it's much more motor skills, then the sleeping brain does a lot to really solidify whatever it is you do. So the regular nature of you doing something every single day will really compound your knowledge and compound your ability and just make it a lot easier for you to advance quickly and make you feel good about what it is that you're doing. So just keep to a schedule. That's the big thing when you're starting out. Yeah, exactly. I've noticed that sometimes I'll sit down at the piano the next day and be much better than I was the previous day. That's always the case. Like you'll stop practicing one day and it's like, I suck. And then you'll sit down the next day and you'll be like, wait a second. No, I don't. I'm awesome. That happens all the time. That happens to me every time, especially when I've been in a period where I've been practicing a lot, which I haven't been recently. I never have time to practice. It's weird. I am a musician and I have a channel and I do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. I never have real time to practice. I could be practicing right now, actually. So yeah, maybe I should be practicing. Oh, well. Yeah, do it. Yeah, maybe I'll do it later. I mean, I actually have practiced a lot today and I'm I've gotten to the point where I kind of wanted to chill out on it. So maybe next time, maybe next Patreon hangout. Maybe these will be a little bit more regular. So cool. So guys, thank you for joining me on this first inaugural Patreon hang. I think today we're just gonna cut it. I'm just gonna end it here. I've been thinking about different ways of like reorganizing my channel and reorganizing my stuff. So this might sort of almost eventually might take the, I don't know, the Patreon rewards need some work. I need to figure out a little bit better of a way of organizing everything just to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting what they paid for and also feel like, what they're, I just need to reorganize my Patreon stuff a little bit. So part of that is going to be a more common Patreon live stream. So anyway, so that's going to be the case. It's going to be maybe a few weeks before I start really thinking about this. There's a Patreon convention. It's the stupidest thing. Jack Conte is the, he's the guy who runs Patreon and everything. And he's going to be giving a bunch of speeches and running seminars. And hopefully I'm going to go to that in Los Angeles next month. So maybe I'm going to sort of like retool what I do with Patreon then. But anyway, awesome. Well, thanks everybody. And until next time, bye.